Assalamu alaikum. To pick up where we left off, dear beloved brothers and sisters, we've been talking about faith. We're talking about how faith is not part of our Constitution, but faith is who we are as human beings. This is what makes the human being up. This is what makes up this is our human makeup, our faith. Faith is not some mystical, illusion or mystical fantasy or something like that, but faith is our human makeup. We have to understand the language. Understand the language. Words make people. Understand the language. That's the topic of this talk that we're doing today. Understand the language. Faith. What is the definition of faith? And I keep emphasizing this because many of us, especially our Christian brothers and sisters, and many of our Muslim brothers and sisters, have never heard this definition of faith before. It is trustworthiness. It is uprightness. It is ethics. It is morals. It is virtue. It is all of these things that God has put in our human makeup, in our human constitution, and that's what faith means. And when we are people of faith, then the communities and the societies that we live in become part of who we are. Become part of who we are. You may ask then, how come we got so much crime in the community? How come we got sexually transmitted diseases? Why do we have prostitution? And why do we have people on Wall Street robbing and taking people homes and foreclosing on people's homes and the big banks and so forth? If trustworthiness and integrity is a part of the human makeup. The reason we have this is because we have to realize the reality of Satan. We have to realize the reality of Satan and his influences. The only way that Satan can overcome us as human beings is he has to destroy the moral makeup of the human being. When you destroy a person's morality, you can rule that person. You can do anything that you want to do with that person. Because morality is our compass by which we govern ourselves. Morality is how we not only govern ourselves, but morality is how we live in the society in which we live in. And when you destroy the foundation of morality, then the people becomes at your mercy. And this is what has happened in this society that we live in. They have made morality seem like a burden. If you stand up for what's moral, if you stand up for what's right, then nobody wants to talk about that anymore. They have made people ashamed to profess being moral and upright. And in doing so, they have started the process in destroying productive community life. This is why you have people, our children, being kidnapped and raped and robbed and murdered. This is why you have people sneaking into people's bedrooms and raping them. And this is why you have the big banks on Wall Street foreclosing on people's homes and taking people's money. This is why you have politicians who take the money of the taxpayer and go and have a party with it with no concern about the people that they're supposed to be representing. This is why you have people coming talking about, I'm a homosexual and I'm supposed to have and I want my lifestyle to be recognized the same way that yours is recognized. But before they could say that, the moral life of the people, the moral life of the public had to be torn down first, so that people would not be able to recognize the difference between right and wrong. on our last presentation, we was talking about how when people are being burdened and how people are being abused, and then they go to someone and ask them for help, then those people who they go to and ask for help, they don't have to ask questions. They can see how these people are being abused, and they come to their aid. And we talked about how when we had President John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson and Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we talked about how that God moved on the minds, God moved on the hearts of these people, and they saw how the African American community was being abused and misused and enslaved under Jim Crowism, lynched and hung, drugged through the streets, and all of these kinds of things. So they legislated laws because Dr. Martin Luther King spoke to the conscience of America. And so the laws were legislated that will pave the way for people to have just treatment. But now what has happened is that now we have the gay community. They come up and they say, well, we want civil rights too. We want same-sex marriage. We want to have civil unions. We want to be, but here's what we have to understand. We're talking about understanding the language, brothers and sisters. We're talking about understanding the language. That's the key. Understanding the language. Now, what do we mean when we say civil rights? We're talking about being civil. We're talking about a society. Civil rights ain't about civil rights is about having the right to vote. It's about having the right to live in peace. It's about being civil. That's what civil means. Civil rights is about having the right to serve in the government, to have a right to be a member of the decision-making body for your community, for your street, for your city, for your state, for your government. Because what you're doing, you are helping to legislate laws that will help your community to remain civil, to treat people right. You see, that's what civil is all about. The reason that African Americans didn't have civil rights, the reason we weren't able to do that is because we weren't even considered to be human. So what are we as animals going to do with civil rights? We were not even human. What you need with civil rights, nigga? You ain't no human being. Get on over there in that corner. Go and pick some cotton. Move, boy. Not even respected other man, even though you 80 years old. What you need with that? So that's what it means about being civil. And the homosexual community, now they come in and they piggyback on the language that we use in order to frame their desires, in order to frame their movement in the same language that our movement as African Americans was framed in, so that people will come to their aid like they came to our aid. We get back to that part about people being oppressed and abused, and when they ask for help, then people come to their aid. But now they use the same language that we use so that people can be tricked into coming to their aid, because the masses of the people does not accept that language, does not accept that way of life. Why? Because most of us still remain in touch with the natural nature that Almighty God, Allah, has given us. And we know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. So no matter how you frame the language, you can't fool the God-fearing. You see. So, this same-sex marriage, it is not a constitutional issue. Same-sex marriage, it is not a civil rights issue. Same-sex marriage is not a civil rights nor a constitutional issue need to make that plain. What is marriage? Marriage is not, marriage is the process that Almighty God, Allah, has given human society to not only protect society, but to advance society. That's what marriage is. It's an institution. It's a process. This is marriage. This is marriage. I'm telling you what marriage is and the purpose that marriage serves. It's an institution. It's a process that God has given human society to advance human society and to protect human society. Now, how do we explain that? We explain it in this way. You know, this devil, this Satan influence that we live under today, you know, they have introduced all kinds and all forms of sexual innuendos and sex. So this society is based on sex, steeped in sex. You look at the average sitcom on TV today, it's sex. It's just bombarded. You know, The Big Bang and How I Met Your Mama and, oh man, three men and a boy or something like that. 3 boys and a man. You know, 2 men and a boy. You know what I'm trying to say. But it's all, and you know, The Modern Family, you see. And we sit up and we watch these sitcoms on TV, and we just laughing ourselves straight to hell. Laughing ourselves straight to hell. And Vice President Joe Biden did a shameful thing. I wish I could say something, but Joe Biden, you really need to be ashamed of yourself. President Obama really needs to be shamed. Joe Biden gonna sit up on the morning talk show and come out and say, well, you know, these sitcoms, they educating people so that, and I'm not quoting here, I'm just giving you the essence of paraphrasing here, giving you the essence and my own idea about how what he was talking about. And he's saying that, you know, these you know, you had this program come on, this sitcom where you had the straight woman and you had the gay man, you know, and they was educating people on about on that it's all right to accept this lifestyle, you know. Now they got other sitcoms that come out, and these programs educate people that they don't have to worry about being afraid of anything, you know. This is how I saw what he was talking about, you know. And these programs are not educating anybody, Joe Biden. These programs are tricking people. Because they know people do not accept this lifestyle. Here in California, we voted down same-sex marriage multiple times. The people do not accept it. The only states that have accepted it was not done by the people. They were done by politicians who sold the people out, like you did. People don't accept that. So this is not a civil rights issue. And these TV sitcoms, they don't educate people. They fool the people. They trick the people. And people sit up and look at these programs, and the comedy is so funny until they drop their guard. And pretty soon when they drop their guard, then Satan can ease and slip this lifestyle in on the unsuspecting public. That's how it's done. They ease this in under the cover of darkness. But now they started years ago now. I remember Red Fox, I believe, years ago he starred in this program called Norman, Is That You? You know, Norman, Is That You? I think Norman was his gay relative or something like that. You know, I just heard about most of this, you know. And then they make these movies, and then they put homosexual people in them, and then we get so used to seeing them on the screen until pretty soon we drop our guard. And we start to accepting it as part of the society. Now, let me make one thing abundantly clear. Who a person sleep with, who they be with, is totally fine with me. I have no control over that. That's between them and God. But when you begin to try to hook it up with the African American struggle and what we've been through, and when you try to make it socially acceptable to the public, so that it begins to affect me and my family, then I am forced to say something. I am forced to say something. We do not want this. And ever since President Obama has came out, and man, lost a lot of my respect. It showed me that this brother have no idea about the value of the African American struggle. Now, here the people. Now, we are people. We are human beings. We identify ourselves by the human attributes that God has put in us: faith, trustworthiness, uprightness, integrity. These are the foundations of our human makeup. The gay community identify themselves by their sexual techniques, by how they have sex. What? Here you got a people who identify themselves by their sexual escapades, by their sexual techniques. And you attach that on to the noble movement that black folks have gone through? Shameful. Shameful. Well, if I wasn't in the mosque, I'd cuss. But it is shameful. Shameful. And don't tell me that you don't know any better, Mr. President, because you are a highly intelligent human being. You got sense. I don't know who you done sold out to or who bought you out. And now here we got Ben Jealous of the NAACP, and he comes out with a statement saying that we will oppose anybody who tried to codify discrimination and racism and deny the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transsexual community their citizen rights, their rights as citizens, something to that effect. Not verbatim, but something to that effect. The lesbian, and here's a man who wants to run up behind another man, and here's a woman who wants to lay with another woman. Here's a bisexual who don't know what they are, or I can go either way. And then here's a transgender, born one way, and then go through an operation to make themselves another way. I mean, I am so sorry. I don't mean to be so graphic, but I'm trying to get people to see, the significance of this. This is horrendous. And you're trying to say that Emmett Till, you're trying to say that Fannie Lou Hamer, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you're trying to say that they believed in that crap? You're trying to hook that up with the noble, the beautiful, the God-given struggle that the black community have gone through. That is shameful. Of people who base their entire life on sex and how they identify themselves as sexual objects. It's who you are, he said. Yeah, this is who I am. I'm a sexual being. We're not sexual beings, brother. We're not sexual beings. Sex is only one component of the total life. And just to be a little bit more graphic, when you are lawfully married and you are participating in intimacy with your wife, female wife, and male husband, the sexual act is short. It ain't nothing long and drawn out. It's short. What does that tell you? It is not who you are, it's what you do that tells you that it's meant for that particular purpose. It is short. It ain't all you hear people talking about, oh yeah, make it last forever. Come on now. It ain't about that. We ain't no sexual people. It's over and done. That tells you that we are not a sexual people. We don't identify ourselves by our sexual urges. As a matter of fact, sex is like animalistic. That's when we're in our most animalistic form. We're not being refined when we're making love. It's not we're not being all proper. We're not refined. It's not the epitome of refinement. We're not trying to be all dainty and practicing etiquette or nothing like that. We're animalistic when we're in that situation. Let me just move on. I just wanted to get this out real quick because, it's a touchy subject and I don't want to elaborate, but I'm just trying to get the idea out there. That is not our identity. Our identity is trustworthiness. Our identity is uprightness. Our identity is truthfulness. Our identity is obedience to Almighty God Allah. So come on, being jealous of the NAACP. You want to take me to court because I find it repugnant to be with a man? How you going to try to tell me what kind of morals I'm supposed to have, brother? Oh, we will oppose any state, national state, or local person that tries to deny LGBT their rights as citizens. That ain't no right. Sex ain't no right. Sex is what you do. It is not a right. Eating is not a right. Sleeping is not a right. Running is not a right. Going to the bathroom is not a right. These are biological functions that God has placed within every human being that everybody does. But it is not a right. Now, it becomes a right if people try to keep you from doing these things. Then it becomes a right. Now, if I see two gay men over here, they want to be with each other, they got a right to be with each other. Oh, yes, they do. They got a right to be with each other. And I good riddance. Y'all gonna do that, but don't try to impose that on the broader society and make the broader society accept it, because we don't. God has given the human being freedom, unlimited freedom, but freedom, some forms of freedom is nothing but slavery, and it'll take you down. So now, what are we saying here when we say marriage between a man and a woman advances the society? It safeguards and protects the society. Here's what we're talking about. Because the morals of the society have been destroyed so much until you got HIV, you got all kinds of sexually transmitted diseases, and I'll go out on the limb and I say HIV, it is a gay disease. Let me say that again. I don't think nobody want to hear that. HIV is a homosexual disease, and I am not trying to be what you call funny. I'm not trying to be, caustic or abusive. I'm just trying to be truthful, because this did not come to to the surface until it came from that community. They don't try to put it on monkeys. They don't try to put it on everything but the right source. You see. So now, marriage is not a civil right. Marriage is a process for the progressive development and protection of human society. Because if you don't have standards, if you don't have a line drawn in the sand, if you don't protect the community wherein which you live, then people will come in and do anything. You see. You know, if you don't have, what am I saying here? You know, I was talking to a lady the other day. I said, now, you know, if you don't stop this, then next thing they're going to say, I can marry my mama. I can marry my sister. I can marry my daughter. You know, then they're going to try to bring that in the same way that they brought this same-sex marriage in. They're going to start presenting people, a couple on TV in a sitcom. You know, oh yeah, this is my sister over here, you know, and we going to get married, you know, we sleeping together, and then the audience going to bust out laughing. The same way they're doing with the Modern Family thing. You know, the same way they did with this other sitcom that Joe Biden talked about. So that's what I mean when I say protect marriages, protect the society, because marriage is a commitment. Well, two men, they can be committed to each other, but two men is not a pair. God says in his holy book that he has created man, and he created man, and then he created his mate. The word for mate is zawj. Now, the word in the Holy Quran we pronounce it as zawj, but it means mate. He has created man and woman in a pair. What do we mean by a pair? You know, a pair, this is a pair. You got a right hand and you got a left hand. That's a pair. If I had two right hands, that's not no pair. If I got two left hands, that's not no pair. So if I got two shoes, they both fit my left foot. That ain't a pair, that's just two shoes. You can't walk nowhere in two left shoes. That ain't no pair. Two men ain't no pair. Two women ain't no pair. They just two men. They just two women. They don't produce nothing but disease. And that's it. They identify themselves about how they have sex. When God has given us the identity of the human being. Uprightness, honesty, trustworthiness. That's the true identity. That is what society is based on. That is the foundation of human survival. That is the foundation of human progress, not how you have sex. Oh, this is who I am. Well, you're going to be that. But don't put it on me, because I'm going to push you off of me every time. Thank you, dear beloved brothers and sisters. We're going to talk about homophobia. Homophobia. There's two words. One is homophobia, and the other one is moral phobia. So we're going to talk about homophobia and end this one. Assalamu alaikum.